Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Bill Cox. Bill is the CEO of Martus Solutions, and he has spent over 35 years as an entrepreneur and business owner. He developed accounting and cable television management software early in his career. Later, his involvement with startup companies and acquisitions led him to develop tools that helped keep his finger on the financial pulse of these companies. In 2008, he formed Martus Solutions to develop solutions that provide nonprofits and businesses with critical financial planning tools and decision-making support information. Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, Bill Cox.
Thank you.
Well, first off, Bill, why do you do what you do?
Well, one thing is I like solving problems. I was a mathematical major in college, and I like matching up resources to problems to achieve a solution. I think it's also important to take full advantage of the resources you already have. For example, almost daily, I try to decode what is called a crypto quote puzzle in the local newspaper. In one such puzzle, I discovered a Latin proverb that goes like this: no gain is as certain as that which proceeds from the economical use of what you already have. And that's really what Martus is about helping our customers best utilize their existing resources to accomplish their mission.
And talk to me a little bit about how you're managing both the growth of your organization while at the same time trying to improve your product.
Well, both of those sort of go hand in hand. As we're growing, we're sometimes running into more demanding questions from prospects. And we always want to make sure we keep up with what in the industries that we serve, what their needs are, while also expanding our organization and restructuring it from a small organization to a larger one that has more designated responsibilities. I personally was involved in almost everything early on in the company, and I have done my best to hire good people who I can say, you're responsible for this, and let me know when I need to step in or lend you my thoughts or advice or whatever. So, and that's challenging for a small company. You have to make sure you hire the right people. You can't afford to make many mistakes in that regard, as well as trying to stay ahead of the curve with the product to keep making it more and more attractive and meet customer needs.
And I want you to unpack for me a little bit, because I talk to a lot of business owners and they run into the hurdle of trying to expand and hiring the right people. They all express a desire to do what you say you've done, but then they seem to fall short on the execution of that. I don't know if that's a hiring problem per se, or so. What's your secret sauce to that? So you've been successful at it. What's the key for that?
Well, I would say it's still a hard question. It's a hard thing to do. One of probably the most difficult things for an entrepreneur to do is to let go of having their hands in everything. They certainly know the product very well. I have a technical background, although the technology as far as developing software has passed me by, but I do have an understanding of the basics, and but I need to rely on other people to adapt to the business needs that we communicate to them in our solution. And then, of course, hiring people, there's no secret answer, but we try to find people that have good character, maybe somebody that we know or have had good references for, et cetera. So if an example of that is recently, one of our customers had left their position, and he sent us an email saying he was looking for another particular job similar to what he had. And in his email, he said he was in ERP sales early in his career. And I go, whoa. Well, one, in the position this guy was in, he's a high character person. And secondly, he has experience selling software. And we had a conversation, everything just dovetailed. We hired him back in the middle of February, and he's off and running, making great progress.
So it's a bit like something I heard expressed about player drafts in professional sports. When you come across the best available athlete, that's who you draft, regardless of what your potential needs are right in the immediate moment.
That can be, sometimes that opportunity won't come back around
And
later. So
yep, and turn your attention a little bit. What are the challenges that you're facing currently with product improvement? Is it mostly just a resource issue, and you'd wish you could do more with what you have?
I would say maybe perhaps it's some resource issues, but probably more trying to come up with the right solution. Uh, Sometimes customers have trouble describing what would be the answer to their problem. They just know they need something. But uh, we're all extremely busy having we have our software hosted elsewhere, but there are a lot of challenges to keep up with 50% growth year over year, of expanding our technical capability as well as what the product does itself. But it is a challenge, but we keep plugging away at it. We have some good people who listen to customers and understand what exactly they need and what would meet their needs. We try not to produce something that we think is the solution, but something that would really meet the customer's needs.
And Bill, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours, and why are they a hero?
Well, this might be sort of a long answer, but I would have to say it's my dad, who passed away about 7 years ago. But he was passionately committed to helping others in his own sphere of influence. He was the fifth of 9 children and grew up as in a hardworking blue collar family. His dad farmed, owned a country store, had a logging business, and other farm related ventures. And his family was also a big part of his labor force. My dad often talked about plowing a mule, and how that strenuous that was. But his parents and his family were also very committed to their local church. Uh, I grew up in the 50s and 60s in a rural South Carolina setting where, believe it or not, there were many families that did not own a car. One of my dad's passions was to see that those people had transportation to his local church, and he could only transport so many in his car. So he, without any financial help from the church or anybody else, he bought this very unattractive 1951 Chevy van that had one seat, the driver's seat, in it. He had someone make some wooden benches, and he bolted them to the floor along the sides of that van. And oftentimes there were 20 or more children and adults sitting and standing inside that van that he was transporting them to church without seatbelts. And he did this multiple times per week for every church event. One particular family was a widow and her 8 children who lived in a house with no indoor plumbing. She also had cancer on her face, and the resulting surgery disfigured both her mouth and her face. She and her children had no contact to the outside world, except her children rode the school bus, and my dad took them to church where they had friends and participated in activities, etc. The happy ending is that all of those children turned out great. They had their own families, some have grandchildren, and they later thanked my dad over and over for the impact he had on his life. One last thing, I also remember that my dad said to me one time when I was elected to the same church board that he'd been on for 20 years. And as we were leaving after the election, he said something I think is very profound. He said, "Son, I'm with you as long as you're right." which I think is something that our society could adopt easily as well. So that's what I would say about my hero.
All right. Lastly, Bill, how can somebody get a hold of you?
Well, they can reach us at our website, martussolutions.com, two S's in the middle. My email address is bcox, BCOX, at martussolutions.com, or they can call us at 864-679-3400.
All right. Bill Cox, CEO of Martus Solutions. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Thank you, Ed. Take care.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.